Hey, the park is full of kids today, and everywhere you look, you see friends. Friends laughing together, friends playing together, and oh! Did you see that? This basketball just came out of nowhere. Well, either basketballs are falling from the sky today, or somebody's gonna be looking for this really quickly.
Hey, my ball! Hey, thanks for stopping my ball. What are you talking about? This is mine. What? Come on. My ball had bounced in here, and it looks just like that. And you're trying to tell me that's not it? Yeah, maybe it bounced somewhere, but this isn't it. Oh, yeah, come on, give me. Back off, it's not yours. Give it, come on, it's mine.
Uh-oh. Looks like these boys are about to jump to big conclusions without knowing all the facts. I mean, I can see how as the first kid thinks that's his ball, but this is it here. We'd better help them solve their problem.
Stop, it's mine. Oh, yeah, come on, give me. Wait. Hey, that's my ball. That was strange. I wonder where it came from. You want to go shoot some b-ball? Sure.
That was close. A simple misunderstanding almost kept those boys from becoming friends. They almost didn't discover the truth about each other, which is that they have something in common and can get along just fine. Misunderstandings like that happen all the time, especially when people don't really know each other. And you can't be sure what someone is thinking or feeling unless you take the time to find out. That's what this boy discovers when a new kid moves into his neighborhood and their relationship gets off to a rocky start. Their story is served up in Enemy Pie.
Enemy Pie. Written by Derek Munson. Illustrated by Tara Callahan King. Read by Ed Harris. It should have been a perfect summer. My dad helped me build a treehouse in our backyard. And I was on the best baseball team in town. It was all good until Jeremy Ross moved into the neighborhood. I did not like Jeremy Ross. He laughed at me when he struck me out in a baseball game. He had a party on his trampoline, and I wasn't even invited. Jeremy Ross was the one and only person on my enemy list. I hung it up in my treehouse where Jeremy Ross was not allowed to go. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too. But he knew of a way to get rid of them. Enemy pie, he said. The recipe was so secret, he couldn't even tell me. I will tell you this, he said. Enemy pie is the fastest known way to get rid of enemies. What kinds of things, disgusting things, would I put into a pie for an enemy? I brought Dad some weeds from the garden, but he just shook his head. I brought him earthworms and rocks, but he didn't think he'd need those. I gave him the gum I'd been chewing on all morning. He gave it right back to me. I went out to play, but when I was in the backyard looking for ladybugs, I smelled something really, really, really good. Enemy pie shouldn't smell this good. If enemy pie smelled bad, your enemy would never eat it, he said. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to enemies? Maybe it made their hair fall out, or their breath stinky. Maybe it made bullies cry. While the pie cooled, Dad filled me in on my job. There is one part of enemy pie that I can't do. In order for it to work, you need to spend a day with your enemy. Even worse, you have to be nice to him. It's not easy, but that's the only way that enemy pie can work. I rode my bike to his house and knocked on the door. When Jeremy opened the door, he seemed surprised. He stood on the other side of the screen door and looked at me. "Can you play?" I asked. "I'll go ask my mom," he said. He came back with his shoes in his hand. We rode bikes for a while, and Jeremy's mom made us lunch, and after lunch, we went over to my house. The first thing Jeremy noticed was my tree house. My tree house was my tree house. I was the boss. Can we go in it? He asked. I knew he was going to ask me that. But he was the top person, the only person on my enemy list. And enemies aren't allowed in my treehouse. But he wasn't being a very good enemy. Okay, I said. But hold on. I climbed up ahead of him and tore the enemy list off the wall. I had a checkerboard and some cards in the treehouse, and we played games until my dad called us down for dinner.
Time for dinner, boys.
I was beginning to think that maybe we should just forget about enemy pie. But sure enough, after dinner, Dad brought out the pie. Wow, Jeremy said, looking at the pie. My dad never makes pies like this. It was at this point that I panicked. I didn't want Jeremy to eat enemy pie. He was my friend. I couldn't let him eat it. Jeremy, don't eat it. It's bad pie. I think it's poisonous or something. If it's so bad, Jeremy asked, then why has your dad already eaten half of it? Sure enough, he was eating enemy pie. Good stuff, he mumbled through a mouthful. Enemy pie was delicious. After dessert, Jeremy rode his bike home, but not before inviting me over to play on his trampoline in the morning. He said he'd teach me how to flip. As for enemy pie, I still wonder if enemies really do hate it, but I don't know if I'll ever get an answer, because I just lost my best enemy.
Thanks to a very clever recipe, the boy in the book discovered that Jeremy was not his enemy after all. He just thought he was. And what's cool is that the secret ingredient in the recipe is that you have to spend a day with your enemy. You have to forget what you think is true and find out what's really true. You have to get to know him. Getting to know someone new can be pretty exciting, but you'd be surprised at how different people are. You might wear clothes that your friend thinks are pretty strange, and she might eat foods that ordinarily you'd never touch. Perhaps you're from completely different cultures. So, how do you make friends with someone who's different from you?